Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome on board. Today, this is going to be like a really amazing session. I want all of you all to, be out there listening, paying full attention. I have specially invited Shruti here, who's a very close friend, into this entire pandemic has caused a lot of panic, a lot of anxiety. Even if you do not have someone or you are not affected with COVID, there's so much happening around that causes a lot of things. So we have Shruti here, who is a specialist in the same thing and would love to share her insights with all of us, how to make sure, how do we handle and deal with panic, deal with anxiety, deal with stress, because it is a very stressful situation when you look at someone suffering in all of this. So feel free, guys, to ask in all your doubts, all your queries as well to us. We would love to take them up. All right. So, Shruti, why don't you tell us something about this whole counseling, psychologist? Before we get on to all of these things, I just wanted to have one discussion. Like, a lot of people have this myth that, only if you have a mental problem, you go to a counselor or a psychologist. What do you
Right,
think about that?
right. Anisha, I have heard, people talking about this particular thing a lot. Like, every person I meet, they have this notion that, therapy is only for people who are having mental health issues. But that's not the thing, because all of us at this point have lots of anxiety, stress, and there's lots of tension. Then there's lots of uncertainty that is there, and it's just that it's a lot of things going on at once. So for all of us, it becomes very overwhelming. It becomes very tough for us to cope with it. So, some of us may not even have a mental health issue per se, but then it gets so overwhelming with all the news that's coming in, with all the, the social media updates that's coming. It becomes very overwhelming for us. So I would really, want to put it out there that therapy is for everyone. If you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling anxious, and you have tried your best in dealing with it and coping with it, if you're not able to still manage the feelings that you're having, or the emotions that you're having, then definitely it is the best to meet a therapist or a counseling psychologist. The
Okay.
therapist will, definitely help you equip yourself with a lot of coping mechanisms that you can use on a day-to-day basis, and that is the point of therapy.
That's really nice and lovely. So just one thing, like Shruti, sometimes there's a lot of negative things which people come, I mean, like if you go talk to your family, oh, I am actually meeting a therapist, it's always taken, are you mad? Like in the really literal terms. I mean, it sounds offensive, but that's how the perception is. How do you
Right.
deal with that, and how do you overcome that to actually open yourself up to someone into therapy?
Right, right. So, Anisha, you won't believe this. Yesterday, also, I came across someone who told me that she does not want to share the fact that she wants to go to therapy. And I asked her, what's the reason that you don't want to tell
Hmm.
anyone? Because it's such a stigma, the moment you say something to someone, such as, like, I'm not feeling good, or, I'm just having a lot of anxiety, the other person just, has a narrative. That narrative does not go away from each of us in the society, and it really requires to go away. That stigma attached to going to therapy really requires to go away, and that will happen only when you understand and become aware about what exactly anxiety is, what is stress, and what does it do to your body. Because however long you're going to hold on to that anxiety without going to therapy, it's only going to get worse. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, because it's only going to get worse if you're not going to deal with it, right?
True.
So absolutely, therapy is very, very essential for anyone who is finding difficulty in dealing with a situation right now.
So one more thing which comes into it, since we spoke about like the therapy people don't want to share, there's a lot of things that it's also very expensive. So why do I pay a bomb to share my
Right,
problems? So that's
right.
something also which holds people back. So do you think that there is a
Okay,
solution to this?
right. Okay. Um, so in the market right now, right, there is a lot of therapy options, ranging from, like, the lowest to the highest, right? It's just a matter of searching for the best suitable kind of therapy for you, and going into it, right? And it's also about it. Here in this COVID situation, there are also a lot of companies who are providing free sessions to people who really require it, right? So these resources are available. It is not that therapy is always expensive. If you are looking for something as low or cheap as 500 rupees, it's there, it's available. And if you're looking at some therapy that is as expensive as 1000 rupees, that is also available. It's just a matter of looking a little bit into it and finding out what's out there.
What you're looking at for. Okay. That's interesting. That's really great. So people who always end up thinking like, no, therapy is going to be expensive. People are going to think that I'm someone who's a psycho or something. It's really not that. So, break these myths and barriers. Just be ready to share and, open up yourself and let someone who's a pro at it help you fix that up. That's something which is, essentially the crux of it. Coming
Exactly.
to the objective, Shruti, about our concerns right now, which you're looking at. So this entire second wave has been really crazy. It's worse than the first wave through all the terms which is there, and you keep getting this non-stop news which is happening around. Sometimes literally if you switch on the TV, you feel scared that I don't want to see that. How do you deal with such kind of anxiousness which is coming through this news and all?
Right, right. I think this particular thing that we are discussing right now, right? It applies to everyone in this country right now, because news is easily available, like you said, even on TV, even on social media, or if you have a smartphone, you just keep getting news updates in the morning. In the morning, as soon as you wake up, you have like 10 notifications about what is happening in India right now. So if you have access to phone, then news is going to reach you some way or the other. But what we need to understand is there's a difference between staying informed about what is happening around you and just drowning yourself with all the information that is towards you, right? Like every time there is updates, every minute, the moment you open social media, there is an update for you, right? So I'm sure everyone can relate here with regard to this, right? That you mindlessly scroll through any of the social media pages, and you don't even realize that you spent hours on it, right? By the time you realize, probably you've already passed 1 hour 2 hours on phone, right? So what happens is, when you start looking at news like this for hours together, you go into a spiral of negative thoughts,
Hmm.
and you start thinking, what if this happens to my family? What if I fall sick? And you start having these paranoid feelings, right? So I mean, some of the things that you can do to kind of stop, or kind of restrict the kind of information that is coming to you, is that you can be informed, but you don't have to do obsessive reading of the news,
Hmm.
right? And another thing that you can do is stick to sources that are trustworthy,
Correct.
because there is a lot of
That's
news pages that are promoting a lot of news that is not even true.
correct.
So you need to have one or two trustworthy sources where you can just go look at what's happening and just close it, right? And another important thing is that you don't you have to be careful of what you share.
Correct.
Sometimes we blindly share something, and that's news from last year, probably. You never know.
True, true. That's happening a lot. I mean, people just want to be in the limelight, and that's happening a lot of these things, which is
Yes,
very true.
yes,
Like, you
yes.
sometimes are drowning with a lot of information. You can't identify what is true and what is fake.
Right, right, right.
True.
And if you want to know some information, right? If you want to be updated about what's happening in a day, you can just ask someone who's close to you to share that kind of information with you. So
Okay.
then, you don't have to go on the phone and be on the phone for hours and hours together. It can be your family, it can be your friends. And at the end of the day, you need to, at this point, we all need to limit the amount of time we spend on social media. And that's, I think, will be the biggest change that we can do to stay away from unwanted news.
Okay. Okay, that's really interesting. And something, if I just talk about, like, there are people who may not have different level of mental health issues, maybe smaller, maybe something which is intensive, but the whole COVID situation is making it worse. So what can be done for this, other than uh, looking out for the right information? What do you suggest can be a starting point to start dealing with this?
Right, right. So, like I said, right, like living with any kind of mental health issue, okay, it can pose a challenge even in normal times. Now we are in, that is before COVID. Before COVID, it was much simpler for people who had a mental health issue or people who did not have any mental health issue. But when COVID came along, there's a lot of changes in our lives. Working from home, students are sitting at home. They're not able to go to school. Online classes. That's the most troublesome thing children are facing at this point. And people who are already going to therapy, they're not able to find access to medicines because of the whole lockdown situation. So and this the people who are facing those issues at a milder level right now, I think majority of us are, because we are not able to handle that anxiety, right? So
Right.
I really urge and encourage everyone who are going through those difficult emotions, people who have a pre-diagnosed condition or people who don't have a mental health condition, to seek help online, because all kind of therapies, doctor consultations, psychologist consultations, it is all online now. So you do not have to worry about, okay, I cannot go to a center or I cannot go to physically meet a therapist. That's completely fine, because therapy can happen online and you don't have to have your hesitation about joining an online therapy. So
Correct.
I mean, why I'm saying this is specifically because last year when the pandemic happened, right? We were all resilient, right? We were bouncing back, and we always had someone to call to who was at a better mind space.
Yeah.
Like they would, they would kind of help us cope with it. But at this point, in the second wave, all of us, we are going through what is called as collective stress. Everyone is going through something or the other. So you really require to have an anchor in your life. So anchor is someone who you can share everything with, who will help you cope with the stress that you're dealing with. So any if you are someone who is having a mental health issue, or if you're someone who is not having any kind of mental health issue, therapy is for everyone. That's all I can say.
That's so well put, Shruti, I would say. I mean, that was the sole reason why we spoke about and having you on board, come out here and talk, because there's so much of what people say that no, therapy is not meant for everyone. It's not supposed to be. It's a sickness, though it's not. So
Right.
we would love people to do that. Shruti, if all the people who are watching us and who they want to get in touch with you or someone who can actually help ease down and understand that what is my condition. Sometimes you also have that dilemma that do I have a mental health issue
Right.
or am
Right.
I just going crazy on my own? But,
Right, right. Definitely, they can reach out, and I can definitely help with that. Yes, absolutely.
that's so great and nice. And this whole thing is where we were talking about that therapists and counselors and family. You, like you mentioned, you had a situation where someone did not want to talk about it, like that which is there. uh, can this perception be changed of the people? I mean, if I don't know, probably today we may accept the fact about having a therapist on board. I'm not sure if our elders would actually accept that. Do you
Right.
think that generation wise also difference is happening?
Yes, generation wise, there's a lot of differences that are there. Definitely, if I'm going to therapy, for example, and if I'm telling my, grandmother that I'm going to therapy, definitely she will say to me that, what's wrong with you? Probably, your heart is not strong enough.
Hmm.
Or, I'm sure you can deal with it. Just wait for a couple of days, you'll be fine. So that's the kind of mindset that you see in the older generation.
Hmm.
But definitely in the younger generation, there's a lot of acceptance that's happening. There's a lot of, empathy that's there, because, people understand each other. And the main reason for this is right now during the pandemic, last year, this year, there's been a lot of mental health awareness that's going on.
True.
right? I mean,
True.
before 2 years, people wouldn't really bother to do therapy online, or talk about even awareness with regard to mental health. But now there are lots of people, lots of very very good psychologists who are coming up with initiatives, coming up with social media pages to kind of put mental be mental health advocates, and that is very important. And people should try from their part as well to become more aware of this.
Aware of this. That's lovely. That's nice. Shruti, one last thing that I would wanted to ask is, like, if we are still not in the zone that I am open to, or okay to share my problems with someone, before going to therapy, is there something which you could suggest on a day-to-day basis? Like, since we are all dealing with this whole stress 24/7, it may be related to anything, the whole shift to online change and everything. What all can one do at home themselves? Some kind of activities that you suggest?
Right, right. So, before I move on to suggesting activities, what people don't have right now is a routine.
Hmm.
So, like I said before, right, people don't really have students don't have to go to classes at this point. Online classes are just starting for some children. Online classes are going on for some children. And for adults, if you see, some people have a job 9 to 6 working from home, and some people don't. They are freelancing probably, right? And they have a lot of free time with them. So what I would suggest is having a routine and structure to your day will definitely help. And I think that's the first thing that you need to do. We're all home, right, at this point. And I think with the number of the kind of situation we are in right now, we should all continue to stay home. Simple things like, you wake up, make your own meal, help your parents, do some physical exercise, read books, watch some TV, do your favorite activity. It can be as simple as doing some painting where you're expressing yourself, or probably playing an instrument that you really like, spending time with family. I think last year when we had the pandemic, everyone were home, and there was a lot of emphasis on family time, right? I mean, my family, I would play caroms with my family at home. Like that really, why I'm saying this is because it brings all the family together, and family at the end of the day is all that you have at this point, right? Because you cannot step out. So you can spend time with each other, tell each other how you're feeling. If you're feeling upset, they'll definitely be that support system. So having a support system is extremely important.
Okay.
And
That's
another thing that I would like to really I think I'm not able to hear you, Anisha, properly. Did you say
now.
something?
I'm saying that was really important and lovely to say that you have a support system which is there. It kind of holds you on ground. And one of the things which you mentioned in the beginning, I think, was really brilliant. We should cut off from our phones and social media for a while and do such things.
Right, right. And like there's something called as a self-care routine. So a lot of people think that self-care routine is going to the salon, or getting a manicure, getting a pedicure. Definitely that's momentarily, right? I mean, you feel good once you get that, once you do get that done, right? But there are certain components in self-care that's really important to be consistent with. And the first thing with that is exercise. So when you start exercising in your routine, what happens is there's a release of these happy chemicals in our brain, which is called endorphins, right? That it makes us feel good. So after a stressful day, probably working from home, if you're going to exercise for simply 20 to 30 minutes, it will also reduce the stress responses that we are having. It will help us to release all the stress that we have been facing throughout the day. And having sleeping and waking up at the same time every day, having a nutritious diet, that is very important. Not to skip meals, like have a nutritious breakfast, lunch, dinner. And most importantly, breathing exercises. And I really I tell all my clients this, that you need to really really focus on your breathing. meditation, because you need to be really present in the moment in this scenario. You cannot go back to the past and keep thinking about the thoughts that what has happened, and you cannot really be anxious about the future. You need to be really be present in the moment. Only then your productivity will increase. Only then you will be able to kind of do well during the day. And consistency, I think consistency is the main thing for
That's
all of
the
these
main key
things.
for all of it. You have to be persistent enough to do it on a daily basis.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's lovely. So when you say Shruti, all of these things like really helps this whole self-care. It's not about the outer self-care, but the inner which you're looking at, the diets, the meditation, anything which you recommend, like, where do you start? Like, what do you start with? Because sometimes you always have this thing like, I want to do it, but I don't know where to start.
Right, right. So, I want to show you something. I don't know if we
Sure,
have the time to do that.
sure,
Just a
sure, sure.
simple
Yeah.
thing that you can see. So, okay, let me tell you, give you a little background on this. Okay,
Yeah.
so when we are feeling anxious, we indulge in a breathing called as chest breathing.
Okay.
Okay, so what happens is during chest breathing, you breathe through your chest and not through your abdomen. And when you start breathing through your chest, what happens is there is an imbalance in the oxygen and the carbon dioxide level in our body. So the carbon dioxide increases and oxygen levels come down. So what happens if you're already anxious and you're indulging in chest breathing, because of the imbalance of the O2 and the CO2, you become more anxious.
Correct.
Okay, so how do you avoid this? How do you kind of recognize if you are breathing right or not? So what you can do is you can simply put one hand on your chest, okay, and another hand on your abdomen, okay,
Hmm.
and you have to just take a deep breath.
Okay.
If your hand on the abdomen is rising higher than the hand on your chest, then you're breathing right.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
but if your chest is rising higher than the chest is rising higher than your abdomen, then you're breathing wrong.
Oh, that's
Which means, yeah, which means that there is an imbalance of O2 CO2 levels in your body, and you are most likely to get more and more anxious.
that's such an amazing piece of advice for us to get to where to start, start with the breathing which is there. I hope all of you guys who have been listening to us have really got some good advice and suggestions where to start and start thinking in the right positive way. I think that's the whole crux of dealing with anxiety and stress, and you always have Shruti to go out to, reach out, connect with all of us, connect with someone to be your anchor. That's what's going to build your whole support system. So thank you so much, Shruti, for coming on board and sharing your ideas and the whole theories with us to make sure that we can deal with this anxiety together collectively.
Thanks a lot, Anisha. And I think you guys are doing it really, really wonderful, because a session like this for the public is the need of the hour. And, people shouldn't feel clueless, and, they should have some kind of structure and direction in which way they should be taking, when there's a lot of stress and anxiety. So I really thank you guys for, doing something like this, taking up an initiative like this. So thanks a lot, Anisha.
Thank you so much. Thanks. It was a pleasure having you on board. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.